Thanks for joining us today. We're from Celebris, and we're going to talk about, I think, a recurring theme that you're probably going to hear a lot this next couple days about data, and the importance of data. It's your most important asset. Like the last speaker just said, something like 97% of healthcare data isn't being used, and there's a reason why that is. It's really challenging. It's messy. It's hard to tie systems together. This is the amount of data that's being captured across all of these various touch points, and these are just a fraction of the places that you're capturing data about your patients or your members or your customers. So at Celebris, we try to make sense of the data. Make sense, and we focus on the digital. So anywhere anybody's interacting with a brand, from on a website, in a mobile app, on a kiosk within a hospital, on an iPad, anywhere anyone's interacting with you, we try to make sense of that data and then tie it into all of the other systems that you're already using. So you can get a 360-degree view of your customers and patients and members. One of our large healthcare providers, I thought this was really a great quote. Their goal was basically to solve for identity. They wanted to know every touch point somebody was interacting with their brand and be able to tie it together to provide a really good patient experience. So whether it was through their website or the MyChart app, through calling into the call center, a physical location like an emergency room or a urgent care system. Their goal was to basically tie all of that together to be able to figure out what the next best action is, how they can provide an outstanding patient experience. So the challenge from a digital perspective, and I don't want to get too into the weeds because we only have 8 minutes, but there's two really big things that I think everyone, it's frankly across all industries, but specifically in healthcare. There's a technology challenge and then there's a regulatory challenge. On the technical side of things, how people have captured data on their websites to understand how people are interacting with your brand has fundamentally changed over the past couple of years. People have started focusing more on privacy, like third-party tags and cookies that websites have used for 20 plus years are starting to be blocked or prohibited. So it's really hard to tell when somebody comes to your site, especially if they don't log in. Like you don't know what they're doing before they log in. It's frankly impossible. Our solution, and I'll explain a little bit about who we are, but our solution solves for that. And then the other challenge, and I think everyone's probably familiar with it here, last year they changed HIPAA regulations, made it even stricter, expanded what's considered PII and PHI. So being able to capture the data is one problem, and then managing the data, making sure you're not violating any rules or regulations, sending the data out to people that you shouldn't be. We have clients all the time that call us and say their compliance officer walked in and said, pull everything off the website. Like, I don't trust anything, and we don't want to get a HIPAA violation. So I'll talk through a little bit of how we help solve for that. And these are just, frankly, things I think most people already know. The importance of data, some examples of being able to combine all of this data and make sense of it. What I wanted to show you was some real examples, because I think this makes it a little bit more tangible. So this is one of the biggest healthcare systems in the country. Been a client of ours for a couple of years now. If you understand who's coming to your site or interacting with your brand, whether it's a website or a mobile app or their work computer, wherever they're interacting with you, if you can tie all of those experiences together, you can identify who that person is and persist that identity over time, you can start to personalize their experience. So for example, when I first visited their homepage, I received this graphic, a guy looking at his phone. As I started navigating around, and I didn't log in, as I started navigating around and looked up pregnancy or maternity or things along those lines, closed down my browser, come back a couple days later, come back a couple months later, the homepage now is customized or personalized to what the company thinks this person is interested in. So you can starting to see graphics that are more relevant to that person's previous behavior, even if they're anonymous. One of the other things that they've done is, understanding, being able to capture more about the person, and geolocation is a simple one, but getting access to that data, we can capture, contextualize, and enrich data in as quickly as 40 milliseconds. So before your first page even loads, you can change and customize, personalize the experience for your patient or for your member. So in this case, somebody had been looking for, was interested in pregnancy, and in previous visits had started the process of looking for a doctor. The next time they came to the site, we knew their geolocation. You can sort and change. Hey, here's a doctor that's in your area that specializes in whatever it is that you're researching. Again, it's these tiny little personalization tactics that you can start changing patient behavior and driving them towards what it is you're trying to accomplish. And this one actually was really interesting when, and this happens with a lot of our clients, when they first sign up, they'll typically have like 1 or 2 or 3 specific use cases that they're trying to accomplish. This was their first one. Their ultimate goal was to try and get somebody to book an appointment and go see a doctor because they wanted to provide healthcare to them before the problem continued to get worse. So on the site, they have health risk assessments. And so you can see somebody can self-select, and in this case, somebody started filling out a survey about joint pain. They started filling it out, and as it happens with all of us, you kind of get through the process and then abandon because you don't finish it, you get busy, you get a phone call, whatever. We have the ability, or they had the ability, because they could re-identify that device, not necessarily the person, they didn't even know who they were yet, re-identify their device. The next time they came to the site, they received a message saying, would you like to schedule an appointment? Finish your assessment and schedule an appointment. So it's driving people down the behavior you're trying to elicit. So how we're able to do this, and I'll just go through this really quick, and this is the key to being able to solve for identity. So somebody comes to your site, they're anonymous, they're just browsing the web, and their very first visit. We'll place like an entry in our ID graph that our clients own. They control their own first-party identity. The same person, we don't know it's the same person yet, comes back 8 days later and they're on the app and they're looking to pay their bill, do something, interacting with your brand somehow. And they're authenticated. If they're in the app, you most likely know who they are, so they have a different entry in this ID graph. So 20 days later, somebody comes back and they're searching for doctors. But we recognize the same device. We still don't know who they are, but we can link those 2 sessions and say they were here 20 days ago and behaved in a certain way. What do I want to do with them on this visit? Do I want to try and encourage them to log in? Do I want to push them down a particular path? But we can start building a profile about this anonymous visitor. And then the cool thing about this is, let's say 37 days later, 3 months, 2 years later, somebody eventually on that same device decides to log in. We can immediately stitch together all of those previous visits. And we can stitch it together across device. So we now know their laptop, their work computer, their iPhone. So you understand how they're interacting with your brand. And we can do it across domains. So lots of sites have different URLs. Like let's say somebody's navigating through the site and go into MyChart. The challenge with that is usually the lights go off. You don't know what that person's doing when they're interacting in MyChart with our system because you own the software and own the platform. You can track everything that somebody's doing. It's your patient. So you can actually track their behavior across everywhere they're interacting with your brand. So I put this one up here, and some of these you look at because they don't really necessarily apply or may not apply to healthcare. But what we're learning is data is data. What is important to an airline is the same thing to a bank, is the same thing to a healthcare provider. You want to be able to provide a personalized experience and drive positive outcomes. So I intentionally put ones up here, use cases of things across all industries, because everybody's dealing with these same digital challenges. So whether it's somebody's filling out on a quote or an application and they abandon it, like the example I gave before, the joint pain assessment. Understanding customer life cycle and how to market to somebody to, again, drive them to whatever it is that the response you're trying to elicit is becoming incredibly challenging. If you own the software and you own the data, you can do anything you want with these patients because they're your patients or members. Paid advertising is really interesting. So if you can tell how somebody's behaving over a period of time, you can start, if you're marketing to them, you can put, let's say through social, you can put the right ad in front of the right people at the right time and increase conversion. And that's what everybody's trying to accomplish. But the step we didn't put up on here is knowing how people are behaving. It allows you to not advertise to the people that you know are never going to follow the path that you're trying to push them down. So in this particular use case, this is a big retailer over in the UK. They increased their conversion by 2.5%, but they reduced their media spend by 40% because they weren't advertising to people that shouldn't be advertised to. Understanding who these people are and tracking their behavior over time from anonymous to known to authenticated allows you to be able to start managing your data way more efficiently. So I think I'm about out of time. We're at booth 2531. Celebris is a weird little company. We've been around for 25 years. No one has ever heard of us. We're publicly traded in the UK. We work with the largest brands in the world across every industry. We do some really, really cool things. If you guys are interested, stop by our booth. We can actually show you a demo, a live demo of our software running on your own website. It's very, very cool. I think that's it, unless there's any questions. Very cool. Thanks, everyone.